Though many writing courses today may address the importance of audience when composing, not all scholars have agreed upon the relevance of writing to a real, imagined, ideal, or target audience. A brief review of audience in the Rhet Comp field will highlight the ways we must reconsider what it means to write to audiences in the 21st century. We start in 4th century BC with the founding fathers of our field. Plato and Aristotle emphasized the role of speaker rather than the role of the audience member. Aristotle believes the audience is likely to be swayed by emotion, and so it is critical that the speaker make the reasoning as clear as possible. He must find common ground with the audience and put them in a certain frame of mind. Though this may seem like Aristotle was acknowledging the role of audience, his audience seems rather passive. The emphasis, then, remains on the speaker's job to speak clearly and persuasively. This emphasis on the speaker persisted for thousands of years. Kenneth Burke's 1950 piece, A Rhetoric of Motives, helped us rethink the role of audience as he argued for identification, in which the speaker tries to connect with a target audience. Like Aristotle, Burke's identification suggests finding a common ground with the audience, but it also acknowledged a back and forth between speaker and listener, in which the final goal is social action. Wayne C. Booth in 1963 builds on the idea that the speaker should pay more attention to their connectedness with the audience and the audience's power to take action. Booth's article, The Rhetorical Stance, argues that good writing happens when the speaker pays attention to the interests of the audience. He suggests that writers must find an audience that could possibly care about the subject at hand, or else the paper is pointless. By identifying a problem we're solving, the writer can find an audience that would care and then play upon their shared interests and build a relationship based on these values. Walter Ong's 1975 essay, The Writer's Audience is Always a Fiction, responds to Booth's call to invoke a real audience and to think of the particularities of the audience, and Ong challenges the way we define audience for writing. Reading is an individualistic task, and there is no collective unit called an audience for writers. Instead, writers must fictionalize an audience because many of the writing settings are hypothetical. As a result, the writer must decide what kind of role they want the audience to take, and then make it clear how they want the audience to feel, see the situation, and respond. Not all scholars were quite as convinced that audience should play such a key role in the writing process. Peter Elbow's 1987 essay, Closing My Eyes as I Speak, An Argument for Ignoring Audience, makes it quite clear that sometimes writers must ignore audiences in order to feel free to speak. For Elbow, audiences may inhibit or block the writing process for writers. He makes certain not to discredit the many good arguments for writing with audience awareness, but suggests that writers should think more about when to consider their audience.
Created using Powtoon.